All right. Thank you for staying with us. Again, how had a my electricity just popped off, then my router had to reset. So we're back with you. I guess Adam, you said you played the video of Billy Napier with the
Fumble in the water bottle. He
fumbling the water
lost.
bottle.
He
So
lost week one, and he lost to a water bottle on his press conference.
yeah, going on to what we were saying with the whole UAPB thing and just talking about being able to run the ball. Uh, I think it was Barrett Salee even pointed out that downfield block. They're not just blocking at the line of scrimmage, going downfield and blocking was a very nice sight for sore eyes when it come to the football team. So moving into this Oklahoma State game, they played a tough South Dakota State team. So went 15-0 last year, FCS champions. So it was a tough test for them. The thing that I was really what gave me intrigue or promise when it comes to this weekend, Ollie Gordon only had, he had quite a bit of running, but 24 carries, 28 carries for 134 yards, 4.5 yards a carry. Okay. So, that right there means that Arkansas can slow him down. He can be slowed down. Can Arkansas slow him down enough to where we can outscore them? But when your offense is scoring 70 on UAPB, you have your third string quarterback coming in looking good. Malachi Singleton come in and was, incredible. Now, I will say on the running back situation, Arkansas is going to have to find somebody to run the ball behind Jackson. That's the only thing that I could see. Reed had 5 carries for 28 yards. Braylon Russell got him a touchdown in his first action for 23 yards. But if they can hold to this duo of Taylor Green and Jaquinding Jackson, that could be enough. But this is going to be a tough test for sure. And again, here in about 13 minutes, we'll bring in Courtney Mims to talk about that. But other than that, I know you said you brought up some SEC scores. You didn't get to talk about the USC LSU game. Blake Ruffino, my guy, what happened to LSU? You let Lincoln Riley come in and beat you. It's funny. I posted the thing that I can't remember. Oh, it was Danny Cannell. 1-3 in prime out of conference games, and I know that my team, the one I picked for, hey, look, I told you I was going to take the L on that one, but atrocious. All I can say is if you want to know what happens if you don't embrace the NIL, you do not embrace the transfer portal, you get beat 34-3 by the number 1 team in the country. So with that being said, you had some teams that just really laid an egg. I think LSU was the better team, better program, but you come out and lay an egg against USC. We've seen what happened to Florida and other scores from around Oklahoma, 51-3. You have
I didn't load the right one, but here's everything but the USC one.
Yeah. So look, hey, you got your applause button. Hit that applause button for Vanderbilt. Coming in and being the kings of the SEC. Week 1, 34-27 over Virginia Tech. Yes, granted, it was against an ACC team, but yeah, Vanderbilt's they want Bama. I think they want Bama.
Don't need to make that mistake again.
What was, of all of these, what was the most surprising score from the weekend let's take Vanderbilt out because I think that, of course, is number 1. Other than the Vanderbilt score, what was the most surprising thing that you've seen from the weekend?
So looking at this and then the little bit of some of the highlights I saw, I honestly, I expected USC or South Carolina. Sorry, let's not go. I expected South Carolina to be bad. I didn't expect them to only win by 4 to Old Dominion.
Yeah.
At first I saw some that were kind of shocked with Alabama putting up 63, but you still have Alabama recruits and players. And Washington put up points last season too. So I wasn't too surprised at that by any means. Ole Miss, if there was going to be somebody that had to try to outdo Arkansas 70-0 and let it be Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, I will say that they punted. So
yeah, hey, Arkansas wins right there.
So all in all, I mean, there wasn't anything I didn't expect Florida to win. So that one really didn't surprise me at all. Honestly, the Notre Dame A&M kind of surprised me for how low scoring it was.
Yeah.
But A&M's quarterback, that is going to be the downfall of their season.
Yeah. The promise that you see on this board, if Arkansas plays to their potential, really utilizes their offense and goes through, and I know it's semi-prisoner of the moment of watching how explosive this team was against UAPB, but you see promise against LSU, you see promise against A&M. I told you my games, and I believe stand by it. Tennessee, Missouri, and Ole Miss. You see right there, they haven't missed a beat. They're the same teams. And so I don't think after this week, I still am shooting at 7-5 on the season. But this is I would have loved this game like this to have been in Fayetteville.
Oh yeah.
Really come out and you play like this in Fayetteville. Now you got to go to Stillwater and try to carry that momentum in to Saturday at 11 and do it at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
it's going to be big for them to get hype up for this game.
Well, and whether DirecTV gets their stuff figured out with Disney and all that, we'll see. If need be, I'm just going to go either borrow somebody's login to YouTube TV or, I'll go get rabbit ears and go the old school route. But I'm 11 a.m. games. I guess we get to get it out of the way instead of sitting around until 7 in a game like this.
Yeah.
It's one of those that, like we've talked about, Oklahoma State starts the season slow. So I think it's a prime spot to play them in this early in the season before they figure things out and get things going. This is going to be one of those games which there weren't a whole lot of mistakes during, in a game against UAPB, but there were some that our secondary got beat. There were some boneheaded plays. I'll say this is, Jaden Johnson's block in the back wasn't really, he touched him. He put it, but you can't do that with these referees. You cannot touch them. They're back of their jersey, whatever. So that's still on him, but it's just stuff like that you can't afford to happen against Oklahoma State.
And you look at, South Dakota State coming in, their quarterback, Gronowitzki, Mark Gronowitzki. He went 20 of 36, 264, 2 touchdowns, did have an interception and was sacked twice. They were able to rush for 141 yards total against Oklahoma State, which, crazy enough, Arkansas had that through one quarter, I believe, or one half. I want to say one quarter of play. They already had 141 yards rushing. So this game where I know you had it as a loss, I've got it as a win. It looks like the gap closed a little bit on that. Now, it still could go either way. I'm not guaranteeing that this is going to be an Arkansas win just because of a win over UAPB. But the case for it being in Stillwater, it's 11 o'clock. That always the time frame. If you're going to get somebody on an away game, 11, you want it 11 o'clock kickoff time. And we'll have Courtney Mims come on here in a few. She's going to she wanted to discuss the whole DirecTV Disney thing. So we'll bring that topic up. I used to work for DirecTV, so I have plenty of insight on that as well when it comes to those, because it seems like every years there's something going on with contract negotiation. So we'll definitely touch on that.
I know, I think last year's, and it was, I think, more with CBS or Fox, whatever. And I know a lot of that came down to the streaming rights of things and whatnot, but it's just to hold your fans, your viewers hostage, and to sit there and, you have DirecTV put out their propaganda, you have the SEC, you have Disney, you have everybody else putting out theirs. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And then things like this too, you look at and you just think, say the super conference happens, and say you have a Saudi group that owns ESPN,
Yeah.
What's going to happen then? Or is that where this whole, the app that we've been discussing, or streaming service, Venue, or whatever it was called, is that going to come into play? That all their stuff is just going to be on there?
And that's where, again, we'll touch on that in the next segment, go in detail with that, because there's a lot to it. I mean, there's a lot that goes into corporate, because it's not like just say Channel 5 per se. It's not just Channel 5, it's Tinga, whatever the corporate label they're underneath. Logan wants to know my reaction to Dabo and his philosophy that's going to get him out the door. Okay. I talked about that on Saturday, and a lot of my fellow Clemson fans was pissed off at me. I tell it how it is. He's not one to adapt to the portal. He doesn't want to embrace NIL, and you see the downfall of this program. My fellow Clemson fans are okay with, when I say mediocre, they're okay with the fact if Clemson wins 9-10 wins a year and doesn't make the college football playoff, or if they scrape in and win the ACC and get blown out in the CFP. They take that as, well, they're still at the top. They're not. They're not an elite program anymore. This team plays in a horrible conference with maybe one big win. Now looking at the ACC this year, Miami's going to be their big test. But if they don't embrace the changes and they don't get NIL, which they screwed the pooch on it, they were at the top. They were up there with Bama and Georgia, Ohio State, and they could have stayed up there if they would embrace this NIL. They got this stupid thing called ItPay. It's like the Razorback Foundation, but they fully embrace their alumni, and that's it. They don't want anything coming from the outside. People are saying, well, they don't have any resources. The upstate in South Carolina, you're smack dab in the middle of Atlanta and Charlotte. There's GE, there's Michelin, there's, Bon Secours, kind of like a Baptist Health or Mercy. They have plenty of resources. So it's sad to see the downfall, but yet I'm also going to always embrace the fact that I did get to see 2 national championships in my lifetime. I did get to witness the peak of it. So I'm not going to hang my head too low, but I'm not going to sit there and accept what they are now.
Well, just complete opposite sides of coach, in which these two teams are completely opposite as well, who I'm about to say. But I was reading today that, flip side, and this is kind of obviously close to home with Arkansas, who I'm about to say, but Jeff Traylor at UTSA, he's basically begging for NIL money because they're not getting any. And, being in the conference that they're in, they've got some teams that are getting it. And he's starting to see that effect of not being able to get players because of NIL. And, they're in San Antonio, where you've got like HEB, the, home and headquarters of HEB, and 2 or 3 other big name corporations that just one of those could lock UTSA in. But he's out here, just begging, which is so you have one coach who's just like, I don't want it. And then you've got another one that's sitting here begging for it, or it's going to be the downfall of his program.
Yeah, and it will. And guess what? What's going to happen is he's going to find a D1 job, and he's going to go build a program there where they have it. And, I don't blame any of them people that's wanting to do better in their life. If you're not willing to get the resources and you can't, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. But don't get mad at him if he does want to go if he's trying to build a program and they just don't have the people interested. They're not in that big conference. So they don't think, well, let's put it in Arkansas's terms compared to UTSA. What might take 5 years to get the funds, to get people involved in the Arkansas program, it might take 10 years for UTSA to get the funds and the facilities and the program. So are the boosters and the people willing to shell in that much money for longer period of time, opposed to Arkansas? They have it now, and they can be good now and get that money back off their investment. But it goes to, any team that wants to build a program now. You have the means to do that. Arkansas did it in basketball. We're trying in football. I know we're still kind of at a back and forth deal with the whole raffle thing. Florida popped it out. That didn't seem to work out for the football team. So, I don't know. Maybe they're holding on to get a few more games so they can maybe get some half season players in from some NIL.
And Dabo and Clemson thing, I just wonder, it's like, who is going to be the one to pull the trigger to end that marriage? Is it, and I'm not saying it's going to necessarily be anytime soon. Is it going to be that Dabo just sees the ever changing, evolving NCAA, all that, and it's just like, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. I mean, as young as he still is, it's kind of far fetched. You don't see him necessarily going anywhere else. And he's not going to be offered up Bama.
He makes a lot of money. No, the Bama thing's gone. Because listen, it's all about, if he was still in his prime and he embraced this and they wanted him, Dabo's not the coach that he was. You're losing stock. You're talking about losing stock. He's starting to really lose his stock as a head coach. And, Logan, you say Dabo wants out. No, Dabo is so stubborn that he'll ride the ship until they make him leave. He's making $9 million a year to coach in the ACC. No, he don't want out. He's going to make them cut ties with him. So if it happens, I see it happening in a couple of years. I don't see it happening this year because it is, honestly, if you're still winning the ACC, it's kind of hard to do that. But I don't see them winning in the CFP because they're going to be 11 or 12 seed, and then you're playing who right off the bat. So, but we're going to take a quick break. Right after the break, we will bring in Courtney Mims of Pig Trail Nation to talk about the Razorbacks, talk about this game with Oklahoma State, and then we will talk TV and negotiations. Somebody in the television industry would have a lot to say about this. So we're interested to get her take on this, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Searching for premium brewery products that will take your daily routine to the next level? Look no further than Sterling Soap Company. Our handmade soaps, aftershaves, and balms are made with only the finest ingredients that give you the ultimate grooming experience. With a variety of scents to choose from, there's something for everyone. Plus, our products are crafted in small batches to ensure the highest level of quality. So why wait? Visit www.sterlingsoap.com or visit our retail store at 16 West Walnut Street in Paris, Arkansas. Shop our collection and discover the difference for yourself. Upgrade your grooming routine with Sterling Soap Company. Are you looking for a place to grab a cold drink and some delicious food? Look no further than Arkansas Brewing Company. Located at 201 South 1st Street in beautiful downtown Ozark, our establishment offers a wide selection of craft beers and tasty eats. But what sets us apart is our welcoming atmosphere and friendly staff. At Arkansas Brewing Company, you'll always feel like part of the family. So visit Destiny and Christopher Brockett and staff today and see for yourself what makes us the go-to spot for locals and visitors alike. Arkansas Brewing Company, come for the drinks and stay for the friends. Attention DIYers and home improvement enthusiasts. Are you searching for the right tools and the supplies to tackle your next project? Look no further than Mentor's Hardware Store. With locations in Ozark, Alma, and Clarksville, our vast selection of hardware and building materials is sure to have everything you need, whether you're fixing a leaky faucet or building a new deck. Plus, our knowledgeable staff is always on hand to offer expert advice and guidance. And with our competitive prices and convenient online ordering, Mentor's Hardware Store is your one-stop shop for all your DIY needs. Visit us today and let's build something amazing together. Are you looking to take your career to the next level? Look no further than ATU Ozark Campus. As a 2-year satellite campus of Arkansas Tech University, we're dedicated to a quality workforce education, industry partnerships for in-demand jobs, and tailored paths for success. Our programs are led by industry professionals. Whether it's a certificate or you're aiming for a graduate degree, ATU Ozark has you covered. Visit our website at www.atu.edu/Ozark or contact us at 479-667-2117. Your future begins here. Welcome to Ozark Area Chamber of Commerce, where our mission is simple: encourage, promote, and aid an enduring environment of shared economic opportunity and civic development for the Ozark, Arkansas area. Whether you're a local business owner or a resident, we've got something for you. Shop our unique local businesses, explore the beauty of Ozark, and savor local flavors and find cozy accommodations. Join us in building a stronger community. And to learn more, contact us at 479-667-2525. Remember, together we thrive. And welcome back to the Hog Talk podcast. And we go to the Meadows Lumber Hotline, bring in Courtney Mims of Big Trail Nation. And we were talking, Courtney, we're live for a minute. My power goes out, internet goes out, total reset. Adam's sitting there just like, hey, let's play this Billy Napier video. So look, he took a shot at Florida. So, so
there's no shots at Florida, by the way. They deserve all of it right now. So you guys are fine. You absolutely should play the water bottle video, because I made a joke today. Billy Napier had a battle with the water bottle, and then you saw Brian Kelly get so mad in his post-game press conference and slammed the table so the water bottle flew up. I kind of felt bad for water bottles this week.
Exactly. You know? I know. I spent the last 2 minutes of the segment talking about Dabo. So, I told you, Alyssa, we had a rough weekend. We need to get together and just kind of have some water bottles and just have a good talk. We get through week one, because it sucks when it's September and you're already talking about is the season over?
Well, I'm going to be totally honest with you. And I said this to you over message. Everyone who's been checking in on me this weekend, I was fine. Yeah. I mean, if you're a Florida fan, you knew that was going to happen. You knew that was going to happen. If you didn't know that, then you didn't listen to any of the team and what they were saying in fall camp, because there was a lot of glaring issues in fall camp. I think one of the biggest ones being that when I saw one of the things coming out about one of their scrimmages, and that they missed something like 50 tackles in one of their scrimmages, and I went, what? This is not going to be a good year. I'm going to tell you that right now. So I knew that it wasn't going to be a good year. I have been all for it not being a good year for Florida. And people go, why, Courtney? Why are you not all for it not being a good year? It gets Billy Napier fired faster. And that's what I would like to see. So Chad Morris 2.0, we're about to go. About to get on out of here. Let's go.
Switching to more positive Razorback news, and really somebody who's been on the inside. I've had so many people that beforehand, they couldn't wait for this team to play. The team wants to prove people wrong. The media who's been on the inside, they're like, this team's going to prove people wrong. How refreshing was it? I know it was UAPB, but how refreshing was it to see a positive side of this team? 10 drives, 10 touchdowns. What was it like seeing that game?
I mean, it was incredibly positive. And I know everybody is going to say the same thing, like you just said there. All I've been hearing all week long since Thursday night is it's UAPB. Guys, it's UAPB. And I get that. But did anybody watch the games from this weekend? It's not like Alabama or Tennessee or Ole Miss. While they looked good in their games, they weren't taking on top talented teams. I mean, we got to give Oklahoma State more credit, because South Dakota State is actually a really good team in the FCS. So honestly, if we're going to give anybody credit, give some Oklahoma State some credit for playing them on week one. But if you look at any of those games, you're not going to see, or you're not going to know really what you're going to get from all of those teams, because of the level of talent that they that they were going up against. So I get it's UAPB, but it was refreshing to see. I mean, you can't argue with 10 drives and 10 touchdowns. You can't argue with that. What was the stat? Like, that's the first time in 20 years that has happened in FBS. I said that's the Bobby Petrino effect. And people go, Courtney, it's not the Bobby Petrino effect. It's literally UAPB. And I go, yeah, how many teams in the last 20 years, FBS teams have taken on other trash opponents? A lot, and they haven't been able to do that. That to me signifies something. That to me says, hey, this is a team that we need to be paying attention to. Now, we won't know until they face a team like Oklahoma State. This is why this is so good that week 2, this Razorbacks team is going and facing a top 25 opponent off the bat. We're going to see a lot from this matchup, but it was so nice to just see them get some confidence. I mean, you can't argue with 10 drives and 10 touchdowns. You can't argue with that. And you also can't argue with a 0 put up by the defense. I mean, that's impressive, just whoever you're facing. So, again, I know it's UAPB. We're going to hold our expectations until Oklahoma State, but I'm excited to see what this team can do.
As the game was going on, Arkansas is still out there throwing, and I think it was fitting right before the last touchdown of the game, the announcer was saying, and they shot to Bobby Petrino, and he was like, oh, he's still calling in plays. What did you think, like, to see that, like, he's still calling in the plays, he still has his quarterbacks dialed in when you're up that much?
he said something in the press conference when it was one of the two he had in fall camp. And he said, look, I don't want to kick field goals, right? I'm not really paying attention to the kickers in practice. We're going out there and we are scoring touchdowns. Every drive should end in a touchdown. And so I don't think you can get up there in a press conference and say that with such confidence, right? And not execute that even against UAPB. Bobby Petrino doesn't care that it was UAPB, right? He doesn't care that it was the Golden Lions. He does not care. He wanted to go out and show everybody what he was hired to do. And I think he did that. And not to mention, you had all three strings score, right? You had your first team, your second team, and your third team do something. That was meaningful reps for those guys. And people go, no, Courtney, why was it meaningful? They were playing a high school team. They were playing somebody other than themselves. It was a meaningful live game rep, okay? This is important. And so we got to see some of the second team, the third team. And that's what Bobby wanted to see as well. I mean, Bobby likes to have a backup, right? I mean, that's been true in his teams. He likes to have a good backup quarterback. And we saw that in Malachi Singleton, right? I mean, we have seen the glimmers of like, okay, this is what this team can do. Against UAPB, I get it. But it's a building block, right? It's a building block. And that's what we're doing. We're building for the rest of the season.
How big was that? We've seen Hornsby. We've seen backups come in and struggle. We've seen even KJ. There's times where he struggled as a starter. You know you have Jaquindon Jackson and Taylor Green, but when you have Singleton 8 for 10, 120, even KJ Jackson 4 for 4 and 59 yards. What kind of confidence does that boost for these teams, these players that are wanting to buy in when they're seeing that the second string and third string are coming in businesslike? They're coming in trying to fight for being a starter, proving why they should be out there. What does that say? The depth that this team has so much needed in years past.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing that college football, if you look at every team, what was the big storyline of everybody's fall camp? What kind of depth do we have in every single position group? It's a question that was asked from Alabama to Clemson to Florida State to Florida. What kind of depth do you have? Because we know that injuries happen. We know that happens. It's the nature of the game. And so when you have guys that like Malachi Singleton that can come in, and Bobby Petrino absolutely feels so comfortable with him being the guy versus Taylor Green, or Taylor Green versus him, whoever, he feels confident that he can come in and run the offense. That should tell you everything you need to know right there. It's that confidence. It's that extra like security blanket layer, I guess you could say, that you know if something happens, like what? When 2 years ago, 2022, I think it was, when KJ Jefferson got hurt those 3 games and you saw a huge drop off, and he rushed back into getting healthy, and then he didn't look as good in his return. And so you don't want that to happen. If anything happens to Taylor Green, you feel comfortable with Malachi Singleton being your guy there. I mean, it's kind of like a Tyler Wilson situation. Am I right? Like, I feel like that's a good comparison there, where you just feel confident knowing you can trust your backup. And even KJ Jackson, I know he's young, but man, he showed some glimmers of like, this is what we can hope for in the future of Arkansas football. And I like what I saw there too. So, and you could really say that about a few position groups, right? I mean, the depth of some of these groups is really nice to see, especially when, you have a grind of a schedule coming up.
After the game, the video started getting shared around. What were your thoughts? I'm assuming you saw Monty Harrison after the game with his kid in the middle of the field. I'm just trying to get general ideas of what everybody thought of that, like in the moment.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my background changed here to the satellite radar. I don't know how that happened. So if you guys see the changing background, they must be doing stuff in the studio here. But yes, we actually, shout out to Pig Trail Nation, who I work for. We shared that video. We caught that video. And Evan Kamiko, shout out to him. I'm going to give him all the credit and love for that, because he caught that moment. And he went up to our sports director, Alyssa Orange, and he said, hey, I love this video. It's not the greatest of quality, but I really love this video because it kind of shows it's more than the game. Sometimes it's just more than the game. And he was like, can I post this? And our Alyssa Orange was like, yes, you can post that. I think people will love to see that. And I just think, again, it just shows it's more than the game, right? It's more, that was a meaningful moment for Monte to come into this game, to play his first game as a college football player at 28 years old, guys. I mean, that's so crazy to think about, but to play your first college football game after having such a successful career in the majors, and to have that moment with your family, to have that moment of like, we won big. I got some action in the game, right? And so I just love his attitude. A lot of people ask me before the season started, what do you think he can bring to the table? And this was before we saw him play any football at all. So I said, look, I don't care if the guy can play football or not. I think you have a guy that's coming into the program that has played a professional sport, that has been in the professional ranks, that can give these guys some knowledge and insight and be a leader for this team. And that's what I think he brings to the table. That was before we knew he was actually pretty good at football, right? Yeah. We knew he was good in high school, but he's pretty good in college too. So I can't wait to see what he does, because I really do believe he can be involved in the passing game. And we only got to see a little glimmer of kind of what he can do, because what we've been hearing from fall camp from him is like, okay, I'm excited to see him get involved a little bit more.
And you've seen that. And then you had, of course, Josh Braun, senior, sticking around for the alma mater. I mean, you talked about leadership. You see two instances like that. Games in Little Rock. It's the first game of the year. It's against UAPB. You could easily just be off distracted and doing other things. But to see things like that, moments where you are you're giving props to the band for coming down there, and you see just one person out there being a leader. Now that gets more people to get behind him. Maybe there's more people that does that on away games or home games, but it was a really cool moment to see, because you're seeing a different culture in this team. For years, Arkansas has got so much crap for coach speaking. Okay, you're saying that we're bought in, you're saying the culture's there, but the stuff going on behind the scenes is saying different. The play on the field is different. What two moments like this, first game of the year, what does that say about this team just from a culture standpoint?
Well, shout out again to Pig Trail Nation. Our Jacob Morris caught that video of Josh Braun. So again, if you're not following Pig Trail Nation for all this insider coverage, I don't know what you're doing. That's a shameless plug. I got to shout out my team when they do great things. And he caught that moment, and he kind of came in, and I saw that video, and I went, was he the only one there? And he said, yeah, he was. And so I'm also going to explain for people who may not know this, but at Florida, Josh Braun transferred to Arkansas from Florida. And at Florida, there's multiple players who stay out and listen to the band play Florida's fight song, and listen to the band play Florida's, their songs after the game. And they even sing them and do that. And so I've captured that moment a few times with the Florida players. And I wonder, and I haven't spoken to Josh Braun about this, but I wondered if maybe that's kind of his carryover from Florida a little bit, of just like, hey, this was something good that we did there, and I want to make sure the band feels loved and they know that we care about them just as much as they support us, we support them, right? And so I wonder if that's a little carryover, just a little insider knowledge there in case anybody wanted to know that. But I do believe it speaks to the character of this team. There are multiple guys that when I spoke to them in fall camp at SEC Media Days, that you could tell there was a difference. I told multiple people that. I said, guys, I don't know if culture is going to translate to wins, but you can feel that this team is different. And I even talked to Sam Pittman about it, who said there is a clear difference between last year's team and this year's one. And I think it does start with culture. I think it absolutely, you have to have talented guys, of course. You have to have a great coaching staff, but you also have to have a really good culture and make sure that if they go and they lose a game, let's say they lose to Oklahoma State this week, they're not going to disband. They're not going to break and crumble week 2 of the season, that they're going to stick together. That's what that does. That's what being together and having that great camaraderie with each other and having great relationships does for you, throughout this season, because you don't want your team to break after week 2, right? You want to see them bounce back and continue to win and continue to show exactly what they're made of. And if you crumble after week 2 because you have bad culture, well, you're not winning anything else. Sorry. I mean, we saw that last year. I'm not going to beat around the bush. We saw bad culture last year, and we knew it early on. There were some telltale signs that I went, ooh, I do not like how they're talking about this guy, and I don't like how his body language in a press conference isn't great. And then you start to hear rumblings from parents, and then you kind of go, okay, well, now all of this makes sense, right? Now all of this, you understand a little bit more of why this team went 4-8 last year. I would hope that because the culture is better, and I can attest to that. I'm not in that locker room, but I can tell you what I feel, and what I feel from going to the fall camp, what I feel from being around these guys at SEC Media Days, and I can tell you that there's a difference. Will that translate to wins? I'm still waiting to see, right? We're still waiting to see that. We saw a great showing against UAPB, but we need to see a great showing against Oklahoma State as well, right?
Switching slight gears, Porter, since you used to work on the DirecTV side of things, Courtney being in with a network, me just being the consumer and a very petty person. What is, I mean, the other, besides being a consumer, the point of view from, say, these networks, these news stations that have to deal with these contract negotiations that then cut off the network 15 minutes before kickoff?
Yeah, it's the worst. Let me tell you, I feel everybody's pain, right? Because Nexstar, who I work for, has been in contract negotiations a few times since I've been over the 7 years I've worked for them, right? I've had to deal with this a few times, and we feel the consumer's pain just as much as you guys do. So don't think that we don't, because listen, I can't get the contract negotiations worked out as fast as you think I can, right? I have no power in that. So I understand what it's like. It's crazy because what it is it's just a power battle, right? I mean, Disney obviously wants more money, right, from DirecTV, and Disney knows that they're going to have the leg up there by pulling their channels from DirecTV. They're going to have the leg up, especially right when college football starts. And you know, that is literally their power play for DirecTV. And so the craziest thing is DirecTV, I hate, as much as you guys want to, you know, I see so many people being like, we're canceling DirecTV and stuff. It's not really their fault. Because they're trying to do a good business thing for them as well. They're also trying to, Disney wants all this money, and they're going, wait a second, whoa, that's a lot of money that you're asking from us. And so they're trying to negotiate a deal, right? Well, Disney wants to make that deal go way quicker and wants them to put the pressure on, so to speak. And so I think it's crazy because DirecTV, I know, and Porter can probably talk to this, sometimes what these companies do, I know right now DirecTV looks like the bad guy, and sometimes it may be, I don't want to say this, Disney, don't come for me, don't sue me, but Disney could be the bad guy in all of this. We just don't know. We aren't in those meetings. We don't know how much money Disney wants from DirecTV and what they're forcing them to do. So I think it's interesting whenever these contract negotiations go on, because the consumer obviously is the victim in everything, right? They just want to pay to get the channels they want to see. And so now DirecTV is going to lose customers. You're going to see YouTube TV do really well. I thought the SEC network getting involved and posting, hey, you guys don't have us anymore on DirecTV, so get YouTube TV, get this, get Hulu TV. And I was like, oh, that's a good power move right there. So I just think it's so interesting what goes on behind the scenes. And actually, we're not in those rooms, so we don't know. But half the time, the person you think is the bad guy sometimes always isn't. So it's kind of interesting there.
It's all about greed. And I worked for DirecTV for 8 years. So we went through this, whether it was happening to Dish and people would come over to us, or we were doing it and they were going, look, satellite's dying. And they smell blood in the water. DirecTV does not have the leverage that they once did. They're trying their stream, but it's not as powerful as Hulu, or because everybody else now can do local TV. Now, when DirecTV was the only one doing that, it's easy. So they're kind of picking on the wounded animal, as is DirecTV. But it was just funny. I got laid off from DirecTV last November on an overtime day, and the very next day I got an email stating that they just become a bowl sponsor, that they'd paid millions and millions of dollars to this bowl sponsor down in Florida. So it was kind of weird. They're talking about, we're going to do all these cutbacks, but hey, let's spend all these millions of dollars in sponsoring a bowl game, but no, it does come down to greed. And well, we're going to raise the price on Disney. Now DirecTV's got to pay more. Now the consumer has to pay more. So that's where YouTube TV, and I even warned people with the Hulus and the YouTube TVs, they've not had to deal with these negotiations yet. They've not had to deal with somebody wanting to cut off. I think YouTube TV did a year ago with something, but it wasn't to the magnitude of right before college football season, you don't give us X amount of money. So it's coming. And I know YouTube prices have already increased with the addition to NFL Sunday Ticket. So you're going to get a taste of what satellite TV life was like. But I told Adam for the first time in 9 years, I'm going to have to pay for TV. So, I lose my employee discount September 12th. So
that's a bummer.
Yeah, I'm switching to YouTube TV this week. But I mean, that's just the two sides of it. You have the TV side of it, the direct TV side of it. And we get the letters and the emails coming out about it. But it's all about, well, Disney wants more money. You have to pay it. And then they have to go through negotiations. And this could be a drawn out thing. I seen when Dish Network done their Channel 5 last year, I want to say it was halfway through SEC season that Dish finally cut it back on. Yes, first world problems.
The first world problems hashtag is great. I love it. Whoever did that, I love that.
So, but no, it's just coming up to this game. I mean, but it's very informative to tell people because this game is 11 a.m. kickoff, and it could affect for those DirecTV customers. So, even if, and that sucks for y'all because it doesn't matter what TV station you're on, it depends on the provider. So your hands are tied on, hey, what's Big Drill Nation? Well, we can't because there's a contract negotiation. So hopefully things get restored, but we're looking at this. We'll cap it off with Oklahoma State game. What do you see happening? You don't have to give a prediction, but what is going to be the key of Arkansas pulling off this win against Oklahoma State?
Well, I think it's a couple of keys, honestly. I said to a couple of Hog fans, I was watching the tape and something that kind of leapt out to me was for both teams is secondary play. We didn't really see Arkansas secondary get tested against with UAPB. And honestly, Oklahoma State, when watching them against South Dakota State, there were some times where I thought, whoa, there's some receivers open for South Dakota State. And if that quarterback wasn't pressured so much by that defensive line, he could have had some time to make some big plays there. So I noticed that. But then I also said on the flip side, I want to see how Arkansas secondary does. Because here's the thing, right? You know that they're going to put pressure on Ollie Gordon. You know that they're going to try and contain him, right? That's you don't need to be a football analyst to know that, right? You're going to go into this game knowing, hey, we have to try and make sure that we shut down Ollie Gordon. Well, but what does that do for you? I mean, we saw it against with South Dakota State that they decided to take that route. They said, we've got to shut down Ollie Gordon. And they did so pretty well. I mean, he had like 100 yards, but on 20 carries or something like that. And so they did a really good job of containing him. However, you can't forget about Oklahoma State's receivers. Oh my gosh, those guys are fast. I mean, Brennan Presley, you've got Rashad Owens, Stribling. Those guys can get open. So I think it's going to be key. Secondary play is going to be key. Can Arkansas secondary keep up? Really? I mean, let's hope they don't get beat. And that's what I kind of want to see because we didn't get to see them be tested against UAPB. And I'm still curious. I know they have some dudes in that secondary. I love TJ Metcalf. He is a baller. So I love the Metcalfs. I love Jalen Braxton is awesome back there as well. So they have some really talented guys. I'm just curious to see how they do against this offense. So that will be one of the keys I'm watching out for. And you talk about the defensive line. Can the defensive line contain Ollie Gordon? I think Arkansas can. I really do. That's why I think it's going to come down to the secondary, making sure those receivers don't make big plays. And then really, can Arkansas's offense go out there and do something? We saw that the run game was so effective against UAPB. I know it was UAPB, but it was effective. I like the offensive line and their progression. I really think that they have gotten so much better than last year. We'll see how they do against Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State has some very talented lines, defensively, offensively as well. So I think that's going to be a key for me, is like, how can the offensive line do? Can they protect Talon as well as they did against UAPB? And what's the passing game going to look like? Because we saw Talon struggle a little bit early on. He settled down. He looked really good once he kind of got away from those first game jitters, I guess I'm going to chalk that up to, but he looked really good. What's he going to look like against Oklahoma State, against a tougher defense? So those are where I'm kind of reserving a little bit of how I feel about this game, because it's going to be a true test. Yeah. We're going to know a lot about this Arkansas team going up against the Cowboys in week 2 of the season. So everyone asks me for a prediction. I do believe Arkansas can cover. That is what I will say as my prediction, is I believe Arkansas can cover. And I think it might be a dogfight. So yeah, that's my predictions. Will I give you a score prediction? No, because I don't want to do that. I don't want to jinx anything. No, absolutely not. No. Have I beaten Oklahoma State as Arkansas in college football 25? Yes, I have. So I that's what I'm going to give you right there.
So I know in the UAPB game, Arkansas spread the ball around a lot, 14 or 15 wide receivers. But how big, and I know Coach Pittman said today that he was still questionable or whatever, how big will it be if Andrew Armstrong is back in the lineup Saturday?
Huge. If he is healthy and he is back, that's huge. And I even said that to some people asking me, what does Andrew Armstrong really add? Well, I mean, guys, he was sneakily almost in the top 10 of SEC receivers last year. He was this close to being in the top 10. I think he was 11th, but it was close, guys. I mean, he was sneaky, a real bright spot for Arkansas last year. And I think he's ready to have a breakout moment. And so I think if he is healthy, if he gets the nod to go, he's going to be ready to prove exactly what he kind of came back to do. I had asked him over SEC Media Days, I was like, why did you decide to come back? Because a guy like him could have really, he honestly maybe could have even gone to the league if you wanted to. But he said, no, I wanted to come back. I wanted to put in time and effort into this team because I know what Sam Pittman is building. I know exactly where this team wants to go, and I want to be a part of that. And I thought that was a really big answer of him. And so I know he's excited. I know he wants to play. And so if he is healthy, and that's if, right? I don't know. I know he's dealing with that hamstring injury still, and Sam Pittman said he was questionable for the game. So if he is healthy and if he is ready to go, he's huge. Because you also saw in that UAPB game, and I don't like to go over any negatives, right? Because again, first game of the season, there's a lot of things, but there were some receivers dropping passes, and I was kind of shocked about that. I said, okay, come on, guys. I think with Andrew Armstrong there, you don't have to worry about that. This is a guy that is an uber talented in fall camp. I didn't see him drop a single pass in fall camp. And some of them were really, really hard catches. And I was like, wow, he made that? That's what you get by a guy like that coming back and adding to that receiver core. I really would like to see him back for this game. If not, I'm looking for those other receivers to step up, really, and they're going to have to step up in a big way because I want to see more from this passing game. I know Bobby Petrino has it in him to call a great passing game against Oklahoma State, but I want to see it. I didn't get to see it a lot in UAPB.
Well, and you're talking about the injury and not coming back too soon, knowing that you had 14 other guys catch a pass, you have plenty of depth where you can lean on it. You're not having the KJ situation where he goes out, rushes back, and you're looking at that. This is a guy who wants to go pro. So don't come back too soon. You've got guys out there, and that's really refreshing knowing that he can really come in when he is 100%. But we'll wrap it up with this. Courtney, again, always great having you come on and sharing your thoughts and insight with us. And we'll definitely have you on again. But just, again, tell everybody where we could find you, your shows, your content, and You gave it a little shameless plug, so we'll let you do it again.
Yeah, I mean, again, shameless plug. I'm going to say it so many times if you give me the opportunity to. But Pig Trail Nation, you can follow us over there. I'm at Mims Courtney on Twitter if you want to follow me specifically. If you want to go back and forth with me about college football or college basketball when we get to that time, you can. I love it. So at Mims Courtney is my personal Twitter, but follow Pig Trail Nation on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube as well. We have some great stuff over there. I know a lot of people like Ask Mike, and I'm on that show with Mike Irwin every week. And we have a ton of other content over there that if you're a Hog fan, you're going to want to be subscribed. You're going to want to tune in every single week to what we put out. So in addition to you watching the Hog Talk podcast, you got to watch us too, right?
Right.
It's share the love, right? So, hey, follow us over there. And I always enjoy coming on, Porter. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, that will do it for this episode of the Hog Talk podcast. Remember, we'll come to you live on Wednesdays now instead of Thursdays, our new night. We want to appreciate all of our sponsors who made this possible, and we'll catch you on Wednesday.